Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is awesome! Hello and welcome to another retro review. We're going through the year 2000 here on Cheap Shot Entertainment. You are the Cheap Shot Nation and I am your host Luke as ever. And we're going to roll on into September with Unforgiven 2000. It took place on the 24th of September 2000 and came from the First Union Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And of course JR and the King are on commentary. We get pyro and crowd noise. I have missed them so much. But we are starting to get pyro back into arenas with WWE. Having watched Payback very recently, which is a good pay-per-view actually, so it's very much worth watching. And of course you can look at the review, which has now got a new review system, giving it marks out of 5. I'm going to give it I'm going to give the whole pay-per-view about 3.5 cheap shots out of 5 for that one. Anyway, we're retro today, so we're not going to be talking about modern wrestling because that hasn't happened yet. It's the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin in this pay-per-view, Unforgiven 2000. We kick off the action with an 8-man tag. It is Right to Censor versus the APA and the Dudley Boys. 2 or 3 teams rather that could very much easily be in the tag team picture, but you know, I get it. It's a payday for them, and Right to Censor was building up quite nicely at the moment, led by Stevie Richards, or Steven Richards as it were, with the shirt that was way too big for him, along with Val Venus, the former gigolo, and the Goodfather, the former pimp, and Bull Buchanan, the former bossman sidekick. Anyway, they would pick up the victory in this one. It's a bit of a cluster. There's not much tagging going off in this one as per WWE 2000, but we get a Steven kick behind the referee's back, which leads to Val Venus getting the pin. Of course, afterwards, after all the hijinks, Steven Richards would get a head in the crotch from the top rope with a "what that" from the Dudley Boys, and Richards then gets wood as he's put through the table by the Dudley Boys. Again, a bit of a throwaway match, very much a shame for some really good teams, talking about the APA and the Dudley Boys. We get to see Triple H and Stephanie in the back talking about the debacle over Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle has very much led them down the wrong road here with how nice he was to Stephanie, beating up Triple H, got a lead pipe to the ribs. So Triple H is being lined up to be a face at this point in time, which is very strange after having gone through the whole year beating up Mick Foley, retiring a legend and all that kind of stuff. Kevin Kelly is waiting for the return of Stone Cold, and he would find out what would happen later on. A leather strap match is next, the second match on the card. It is Geriatric Lawler versus Taz. Now Taz started out the year 2000 with a victory over Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is now being aligned for the WWE Championship, whereas Taz is being Taz. He's going against Jerry the King Lawler, which is very strange. So the King gets the offense really early on here, almost hits all 4 corners, but Taz manages to prevent that from happening. A pile driver and Lawler almost touches the 4 corners again. Raven then appears later on in the match and gives Lawler a DDT for his troubles, giving Taz the chance to put in the Taz mission. Jerry Lawler is out, he's selling the DDT, and Taz mission, the referee calls it. Taz picks up the victory. I think in this feud we are 1-1 between Taz and Jerry Lawler, which I find absolutely Very, very strange. We're moving on now. Stone Cold finally arrives in the arena and beats up Kevin Kelly for his troubles, and we get Maggle Cole on commentary just whilst the King revives from the submission that he suffered from Taz. Hardcore Championship Open next. It's 10 minutes of hardcore mayhem. We have Steve Blackman, the current hardcore champion, having picked it up from Shane at SummerSlam in that really good match where Shane took the fall. You'll see that over and over again. Took the fall from the Titantron, and Steve Blackman would win that one. It's Steve Blackman defending against Al Snow, who this month is from Italy, and it's really funny because this guy's music and it just goes C, C, and it's brilliant. I love that music, fantastic. Crash Holly, the former multiple-time hardcore champion, versus Test, who has been hardcore champion. Saturn has also been hardcore champion, and Funaki, all former hardcore champions, most of them in the WrestleMania Invitational match. And like I say, Steve Blackman is the current champion. So the rules of this match is that the title can change hands as many times in 10 minutes as is humanly possible, and we do get a couple of title changes. Crash Holly wins the title first. Saturn picks it up from Crash Holly, having hit Crash Holly with a bin, and Blackman gets his fabled kendo sticks to pick up the title once again, becoming a several-time hardcore champion, 2 times in a night. And then Blackman manages to retain after a dog pile on the outside of the ring. So basically, Blackman manages to win. The count doesn't go down because multiple people are trying to pin him, and Steve Blackman retains. A really fun match this, 10 minutes of absolute mayhem, and I love it. Love it. Stone Cold opens up a can of whoop-ass on an unsuspecting Kurt Angle, who is trying to do something very nice for Stone Cold, trying to make him feel better, giving him a little Olympic gold medal. You know, I know what your problem is. You don't have a gold medal. Give him a gold medal. Got beat up for it. And Kurt Angle moves on to his match with Triple H later. X-Pac versus Chris Jericho next. Chris Jericho, one of the biggest fan favourites and one of the biggest names in WWE at this point in time. X-Pac had a change of character, having beaten up his former best friend, the Road Dogg, and that pretty much marks the end of the Generation X from this era. Billy Gunn gone, Triple H on a singles run. These two were the last remaining remnants, and they've had a feud now, and it was a good way to split up DX. It wasn't sudden. It was one going one way, one going the other, and just doing it that way. And it was a good way to split up one of the most influential groups in wrestling history. Anyway, X-Pac would get the first near fall after hitting an X Factor on Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho hits the walls of Jericho, but the hold is then broken. We get a spinning heel kick and another near fall from X-Pac, a lion salt, but X-Pac gets the knees up. So again, lots of near falls here, there and everywhere from these two very good performers inside that ring. Jericho would pick up the victory via submission with the walls of Jericho, and X-Pac eventually taps out to that submission hold. We get the Commissioner and Angle rapping with each other, and Commissioner Foley makes the match later a no DQ match between Kurt Angle and Triple H. And he also mentions that Kurt Angle does BS, not has IBS, which he was claiming, couldn't control his bowels. Proving that Kurt Angle was one of the funniest wrestlers, funniest characters in wrestling at the time. WWE Tag Team match next. It is a cage match between the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian. 5-second pose. And yeah, really good match as you'd expect from these two teams. Basically, the way that the match works, both members of a singular team need to hit the floor or escape the cage first, and they pick up the championship. So very early doors, Jeff Hardy tries to do his his extreme thing and goes straight up to the top of the cage. He slips, he gets pushed off, he ends up outside of the cage, and he stays outside the cage. As mentioned on commentary, he could actually get back in the cage and help his brother. He chooses not to, or he doesn't have the opportunity to because of the way the cage is made at this point in time, usually hung from the ceiling with a big gird around the outside, so it's really difficult to climb in. Not difficult to climb out, but difficult to climb in. So we get Edge and Christian 2-on-1 with Matt Hardy at this point in time for quite some time, and so yeah, they're beating up Matt Hardy. We get a double suplex to Matt Hardy from Edge and Christian. Hardy gets the key to the cage door, but that backfires on him. Christian shuts the door in Jeff Hardy's face. This allows Edge and Christian to go and get a couple of chairs and hit their patented concerto, which actually misses at this point. The chairs in the ring, like I say, the concerto misses. Matt tries to leave and Christian misses, taking the ladder out, misses, and he's taken out by a ladder Jeff Hardy was trying to use to get back into the ring. A whisper in the wind from the ladder, from the top of the cage rather, takes out both Matt Hardy and Edge, and at this point Christian is fully outside the ring. Lita comes down, Hurricane Rana from the ladder that Jeff Hardy set up in order to get back into the ring, and Lita takes out Christian. This gives the Hardy Boys a chance to go 2-on-1 against Edge. The Hardy Boys escape after hitting a concerto to Edge at the top of the cage and pick up the championships. We have a new champion. We have new set of champions rather in the WWE Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys. It's been a long time coming. There's been a massive feud. It's done really, really well. They've taken their time with this one, and it proved to be a good thing. Hardy Boys picking up the victory here, picking up their it's not their first tag team championships, I don't think, but one of many. The King is back on commentary at this point. We get intercontinental title match between Eddie Guerrero, the current champion, and Rikishi, the former champion. Of course, Eddie Guerrero is out there with Mamacita, i.e. China, and Rikishi have a history of being good friends and having matches together where they're on the same team. So China turns on Eddie, and there's a bit of dissension there at this point in time, and the Stinkface, so we go into the match rather. Stinkface attempt on Eddie quite early on as Rikishi beats up on Eddie. China saves Eddie from the Stinkface. Rikishi is distracted and Eddie attacks off the top of the ropes. A frog splash then misses from Eddie Guerrero. We get a hip drop from Rikishi, which hits, and China stops the count. So China's very much torn in this match, but then China attacks Rikishi and he hits her with a hip drop after he wins by disqualification. So China comes in, attacks Rikishi, the match is thrown out, Eddie Guerrero is disqualified, he keeps the Intercontinental Championship, and Rikishi wins the match, but China gets a hip drop for her troubles. So we move on to the no DQ match next, which is a no disqualification special referee match with Mick Foley being the referee. Triple H and Mick Foley have a long history together as rivals. They're now becoming fast friends. It's Triple H versus Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle has been beating up on Triple H for a good long time before this match even happened, and the focus is very much on the ribs of Triple H from Kurt Angle. A pedigree attempt from Triple H early on in the match is reversed into an overhead suplex through a table, so they are using all of the environment that they have and the no DQ rules. A low blow from Stephanie McMahon, who comes down to the ring, can't decide who she's going to pick. She gives Stone Cold, she gives Kurt Angle a low blow, and that gives Triple H the chance to hit the pedigree and the win, with assistance from his beautiful wife Stephanie McMahon, now the chief brand officer of WWE and the brains behind the WWE network. Cool, that's pretty cool to me. So Shane O'Mac now comes down to the ring to reveal his culprit for who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin at last year's the 1999 Survivor Series, not last year's but the 1999 Survivor Series. So he comes to the ring, announces his culprit. His extensive investigations reveal that Steve Blackman, who he also has a rivalry with for the Hardcore Championship, has a history of vehicular assault, and announces that it's Steve Blackman who ran over Stone Cold. Steve Blackman comes down to try and chase Shane. The glass shatters, and we get Austin coming down to the ring for the first time in a long time. I'll never get bored of seeing Austin hit the ring. He's just phenomenal, still is now, and I still really enjoy his work. One of my favourites, if not my favourite. A lot of people, it's The Rock, The Undertaker. Stone Cold is the man at this point, and has been for quite some time, a good 6 years. So he's carried the company on his back. Steve Blackman gets a stunner. Stone Cold acts like he's believing Shane O'Mac. Shane goes woo and starts celebrating and drinking the beer, throws one Stone Cold, drinks another beer. Stone Cold Steve Austin gives him a stunner, picks him up, gives him another stunner. Shane O'Mac is out. Stone Cold is here, and he is back in a WWE ring. That is the most important thing. He flips the crowd off, as only Stone Cold Steve Austin does, and leaves. Leaves with his buds. He takes his buds with him. Great. Fatal 4-way match for the WWE title is the finisher for this pay-per-view. We get Chris Benoit, a mainstay in the main event around this time in 2000, versus Kane versus The Undertaker, who've had a mini feud again since Undertaker came back at Unforgiven again, basically. So he'd been off for a while, he'd come back as Biker Undertaker, and Kane and Undertaker had a little bit of a feud, which was cool. And The Rock, who is the current WWE champion at this point in time. So the melee ensues, and everyone's beating each other up. The ref goes down after Benoit hits The Undertaker with the chair and gets a 3 count, a very close 3 count. But Taker had a leg over the rope, so the referee gets taken out. Chris Benoit tries to get the first pin. Undertaker, being the ring savvy veteran that he is, got his foot over the ropes. Winner is announced as Chris Benoit, again for the second time in as many months. In about 3-4 months. Chris Benoit has had the championship in his hands and had it taken off him by Commissioner Mick Foley. Foley continues the match. The referee did not see the Undertaker's leg on the rope. The match is restarted, and the melee continues between all 4 guys in this match. Undertaker hits the last ride on The Rock, and that is followed by a crossface from Chris Benoit, which is broken up by The Rock. In the confusion, The Rock hits a rock bottom on Chris Benoit, picks up the victory. Like I say, there was a lot of confusion here. Kane
Hiya.